WTF is happening with WWE Fastlane this year? Because now we are less than 2 weeks away from the show and we still technically have no confirmed matches, and the event has already sold over 10,000 seats somehow. So let's talk about this. But hey, as always, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications if you're a wrestling fan. I'm confident you're gonna fall in love with this channel, so go ahead and subscribe. Okay, so just know that before I go into what you might think is just a blind rant about the WWE, I need you to understand that I'm still fully expecting WWE to still pull out a great show out of their ass somehow, because these second tier pay-per-views have managed to blow it out of the water. We've had Backlash, Payback, both of them were way better than they had any right to be, and at this point I'm just expecting the same thing from Fastlane, even though it's had a very poor build. But yeah, we are now just 2 weeks away from Fastlane in Indianapolis, and as of the making of this video, we have 0 matches properly confirmed. Well, at the very least, we can say that there are 2 matches that are more or less a lock to happen narratively at Fastlane, that being Shinsuke Nakamura versus Seth Rollins, which has been admittedly an absolutely fantastic feud. And then there's also Solo Sikoa and Jimmy Uso taking on John Cena and mystery partner. Unless they end up making this a 2-on-1 handicap match, which I just don't see happening. I can't see a world where a nearly 50-year-old John Cena agrees to have a handicap match. Granted, back in 2009 and 2010, I definitely could have seen this happen and Cena would have 1,000% won this. But assuming that this is going to be a tag match, we still don't know who that partner is. It's presumably going to be LA Knight. Everything was pointing that it was supposed to be LA Knight to make the save on that episode of Friday Night SmackDown, but of course he got COVID. But if LA Knight or whoever John Cena's tag partner ends up being isn't announced soon, then they're only going to have like a week and a half to properly fully fledge this out. And that sucks because we only have John Cena for a very limited amount of time, so to put him in matches without any true build to them is a little bit disappointing. And what's worse about this situation, which is a match that isn't properly fully fledged out yet, we don't even know who all the participants are, if I'm reading between the lines, the fact that this match has bloodline implications involved, John Cena is in it, and there was even a contract signing, I think it's fair to assume that this is gonna be the main event of the entire show. And even though we have good evidence to show that this is likely going to be the most important match of the show, the main event, we're still here wondering who the fuck is gonna be even part of this match. And this is definitely not WWE's strong suit. This is not how they typically do things. They're usually really good about announcing matches well in advance and building towards those matches to help with ticket sales. But hell, tickets sold even without any matches this time around. This is very unlike WWE. If anything, this is very AEW-like. This type of last-minute booking has always been one of my biggest gripes against AEW, and AEW is super bad at doing this in just about every single pay-per-view that they host. AEW pay-per-views will go from having 2 matches on the card 3 days before the actual event, and they'll go from having 3 matches to 15 magically 3 days before the show even starts. Which leaves us, of course, with very little narrative meat for us to be able to sink our teeth into, and they have to rely purely on putting on an amazing wrestling show from an in-ring perspective. All In, which was their biggest show ever and the biggest wrestling show ever in terms of attendance, was a really bad culprit for this. And same with All Out. They had back-to-back pay-per-views where they had no matches, and then all of a sudden half a dozen matches, and then another 10 matches added to that within like 3 days before the show. I know I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I'm just trying to prove a point that this is an AEW thing. That being said, because this is common in AEW just knows how to operate this way because their shows are still awesome. And because of this, even though we have no matches properly announced for Fastlane, I have very high hopes that Fastlane is going to be a great pay-per-view. But again, I need to reiterate, and I need to reiterate this numerous times, that this is just not where WWE typically plays. Which now begs the question of why? Why is WWE doing this so last minute when it's not their usual MO? It's possible that there's numerous reasons, perhaps maybe coming up with the list of people who were set to be released delayed matches. I don't know, maybe that's a possibility. Or maybe it was was waiting for the Endeavor deal to close to form TKO. Maybe it's possible that that halted creative plans. I don't know. I don't know what the answer for this is because I don't work for the WWE, but it's forcing us to ask questions because, like I said, this is very unlike the WWE. But if I have to come up with a culprit for this, I think it's that the WWE is chasing ratings by giving us great matches that would traditionally be on PLEs and giving them away on their weekly television shows like Raw, NXT, or SmackDown. Which, if that's the case, it's kind of brilliant because they're in the middle of renegotiating or negotiating TV rights. So if they can demonstrate a recent string of high rating shows, maybe they're able to fetch a higher price. Because let's just look at some of the matches that we've had over the past several weeks that would have made more sense at a premium live event. Chad Gable versus Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship happened on Raw. Everyone asked, why isn't this happening at Payback, or why aren't they having a rematch at Fastlane? We also had Rhea Ripley versus Raquel Rodriguez for the women's title, which was an absolute banger of a main event on Monday Night Raw. And yeah, that was abruptly ended by Nia Jax, but again, that is a match that would have traditionally made more sense at a PLE. Becky Lynch versus Tiffany Stratton for the NXT Women's Championship happened on NXT. That probably made more sense narratively to have that at No Mercy, NXT's upcoming PLE, but yet it happened on television. Asuka versus Io Sky for the women's title also just recently happened on SmackDown, and they went like 22 minutes. That's typically a match length to be in a PLE. And just this upcoming episode of SmackDown, we're set to get Santos Escobar versus Rey Mysterio for the United States Championship. A match that we've been waiting for and has actually had a proper build-up and narrative told, not happening at a PLE. Don't get me wrong, I love that we're getting these great matches on weekly television, but objectively, they would just be better on premium live events like Payback or Fastlane, Survivor Series, whatever it might be, because we don't need to deal with commercial breaks. And I truly believe that because we're getting these marquee matches that have had narrative build that are for major stakes like titles, and we're having them on television, it's leaving WWE scrambling to fill out their PLE card. But now let's look at some of the matches that could be realistically added to Fastlane, and I think that you'll see from these matches that I'm going to spew out that some of these are a bit of a stretch to justify, because all of the matches that have had a narrative good enough to happen at a PLE have happened on Raw, SmackDown, or NXT. Okay, so Nakamura versus Rollins, we already talked about that great build. That is gonna for sure happen at Fastlane. John Cena and LA Knight versus Solo and Jimmy, that's gonna be happening at Fastlane, and it makes sense. At least I think it's gonna be LA Knight. We don't actually know. Again, we're still guessing on that. Yeah. And then from here, it gets super murky. Like maybe Jey Uso versus Drew McIntyre, because narratively that makes sense, but we just saw that on Raw. So maybe they set up Cody versus Drew McIntyre as Cody defends Jey Uso in this scenario. I don't know, maybe loser goes to SmackDown or something along the lines of that. But if we were getting Cody versus Drew McIntyre, that's a big enough match to get more than 2 episodes of Raw to build it. Maybe Io versus Charlotte? They kind of planted the seed for that. I mean, I'd feel very spoiled and very grateful if we were actually going to get 2 Io Sky matches, 2 marquee Io Sky matches, 2 weeks separated. I'd be down for that. But again, it feels kind of shoehorned if that's what they end up going with. Maybe a Rhea versus Raquel rematch? Maybe. I mean, it makes sense. The match ended in basically a no contest disqualification because of Nia Jax. But I don't know. We've already seen it twice, and once on free television not that long ago. Maybe Chelsea Green and Piper Niven versus Baszler and Stark for the women's tag titles. But if they end up doing that, it would just kind of feel like a forced, not earned PLE spot, considering that entire division and all 4 of those women were just made to look very weak and got squashed by Nia Jax. Maybe KO and Sami Zayn versus Judgment Day in a rematch. I'd love to see that. And really, aside from that, the only other feud that's going on that could be worthy of a PLE match would be potentially Gunther versus Tommaso Ciampa, but that feud is just in its beginning stages. Like, it's only just started with Gunther watching a Ciampa match on the monitor. That's like where we're at with that feud, so it would feel rushed to have that happen at Fastlane as well. The point that I'm trying to make here is that yes, there are matches that we can use to fill out this PLE Fastlane, but many of them them are going to feel rushed and unearned. And this is a common practice in AEW pay-per-views, but it sure as shit is not a common practice for the WWE. But again, like I mentioned before, AEW does this and they go on to have great shows. So I'm choosing to be optimistic that even though the WWE is taking this approach, an approach that they're not used to, an approach that they usually don't execute, I'm still thinking it could be a really good show. But yeah, this is a weird one, fellas. I don't think I've seen a WWE pay-per-view with no matches this close to the actual show. I really don't think that in my time watching wrestling that I've seen this. So let me know what you think. What matches would you think would make sense at Fastlane? Because at this point, I mean, maybe they'll use your ideas, because maybe the WWE is scrambling and they're just going to look at the comments of this video and pick something from there. But anyways, I'm done. Get out of here. Congratulations to Raw Locker 1 for winning the $400 giveaway from Capital One Shopping. But as I told you guys, the giveaways get crazy from here on out, because the next one is a PlayStation 5 plus a 50-inch LG TV, or $700. The winner can take whichever of the two prizes they prefer. To enter for the $700 giveaway, you just have to click the top link in the description. From there, it'll take you to this beautiful landing page where you can see the prizes that I've already mentioned, and then click here to enter giveaway. Then enter your email and your username. Please enter something valid, because that's where we're going to contact you if you win. And then from there, it'll take you to the Capital One Shopping extension installer. It's entirely free to install to your browser like Chrome or Firefox. It doesn't cost you anything. It'll take you 10 seconds and it could give you an opportunity to win you some big money. Once you've installed the extension to your browser, that's it. You are in the giveaway. We'll be announcing the winner on Friday over on my Twitch page, twitch.tv/SantiZap, but I'll also announce it here on YouTube. And that's it. Good luck, and let's get back into the video.